Very good morning to you, dear brothers and sisters in Christ. Welcome to CBN's My Journey Series. Today we have Elenora Koh, who is a stained and architectural art glass artist with 38 years of experience. She has won awards in Singapore and overseas, and her art has been commissioned in Singapore, Malaysia, Canada, New Zealand, and Sri Lanka. This talk will be moderated by Eleonora's friend, Lynn James. So over to you, Lynn and Elenora, to take us through your journey today. Thank you.
Thank you, Errol, and a very good morning to everyone. And thank you for joining today's My Journey series. I'm Lynn James, and it is my privilege and honor to host Elenora Koh, who's a well-established stained glass artist in this region. I met Elenora almost, I think, in 1996 at the first RCIA session at St. Clair's Hall in St. Mary's, about 25 years ago. I remember you at, I remember I was looking for a seat and was drawn to sit next to you. You were all smiley and you had your son Julian with you, who was only 5 at that time. And the rest is history.
Yes, I remember so clearly that I sat next to you and you were so kind and so welcoming that I felt very comfortable. And every other session after that first session, I chose to sit next to you.
You know, you were my first and actually the only real life stained glass artist I know personally. And not having a single artistic bone in my body, I'm in total awe of your talent. So how or when did you realize you had this talent?
Well, Lynn, my artistic ability was recognized by teachers both in primary and secondary schools. Mrs. Chong from primary 1 who singled out me for compliments. Miss Wong who threw challenges at me. Mrs. Rosling Mao, she was so generous in giving me art materials and the key to the art room. Mrs. Silva Liu suggested that I become an illustrator. You know, having it for a career. At that time, I didn't know what an illustrator was. I was informally known as the school artist as I drew for our school, St. Teresa's Convent, newsletter Echoes.
You know, many people have been eagerly waiting this session, and so we started receiving questions already yesterday. And Miss Susan Tang posted a question yesterday, and it says, in what way would you say your childhood has an influence on your art and your spirituality?
I grew up in Mount Faber Hills, surrounded by the forest. So we had no neighbors around us that we could see in view. As a child, I didn't have TV or many bought toys, but we had the whole hill to play and to create. I used to occupy myself with crafts, making things from whatever I could find around me, whether it's clay from the hill behind me, seeds and flowers. No one stopped me from drawing on the walls with scrap chalks. Imagine that if you do it now, we would get caning, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So what was your early, were your early jobs related to stained glass?
No, I had to go out to work because finances were tight. We are a big family. So my mother encouraged me to go out to work to help support the family. I had a spot in the only public art school, Baharudin, but I had to give it up to help the family. I was not doing stained glass. When I look back, however, the various works I did paved way for me to become an independent glass artist. My early works years were related to, the first real job was related to glass manufacturing and packaging. And later years, I joined the advertising industry, both in account servicing as well as in the creative department. My sister, before that, I did a short stint at Ministry of Education while waiting for my O-level results. You know what I was doing? Data entry. I fell asleep. So I knew 9 to 5 desk-bound job was not for me at all.
Yeah, definitely a desk job is not for you.
Not for me at all. I think you know me very well now.
Yes,
Huh?
indeed, yeah.
Okay. And while waiting, but when we were very young, like in primary school, my older sister Cecilia would encourage, in inverted commas, that she dragged us, she bribed us to attend novenas and mass at St. Teresa's Church. We were scrawny little kids, so we didn't know what was going on because the adults were standing in front of us, blocking our views. But my eyes rested on the beautiful stained glass, and I was awestruck by them. So I wondered who did those things, no? In my early 20s, I chanced upon an advertisement in the newspaper for a stained glass artist. I was like, wow, you know, really do something here, you know. It was run by this British lady, and it's a home-based studio. I was employed as a stained glass artist, although I didn't have the experience. I learned on the job. And soon I was managing the studio and conducting classes, mostly for expatriates. While she went for her manicure, pedicure, her tea parties, and so many parties, no expatriate lives. So I was doing the the dirty job. This lady, she graduated from Pilchard Glass School in Seattle. You know, recently we had an exhibition at Gardens by the Bay.
Yeah, that awesome exhibition, you know, I went to see it, and, you know, I could not stop thinking about you. Whenever I see anything, any art piece in glass, I always think of you.
Yeah, those sculptures are done by Dale Chihuli. He had been in the studio for like donkey years, decades. You know, even when the time, even during the time when I was in Vancouver, I knew about him. You know, actually I was supposed to do a course there, but it didn't work out, no? Because of time and all that kind of thing, other commitments. So she was a fresh graduate from there, and I saw her paint. I told myself, I think I can do a better job, no? So being hungry to learn new things, I initiated working on this panel. I did a picture of an Oriental tribal lady. Okay, and that panel requires different techniques like acid etching, silver staining, and all that kind of thing. So it was an opportunity to learn new techniques, you know, rather than just cut and build the panels. It sounds very technical, and the process really sucked me into it so much so that the piece of work become an extension of me. And this is risky, you know, because I'm dealing with acid, I'm dealing with hot soldering iron, flux, which actually can be quite itchy. Yeah. Yeah. I read about anything and everything that I could get my hands on in the days where there was no internet. Before I could build, you know, first you have to cut and paint, and then you fire many times, right? After that, you let up the panel. Before I could let up the panel, my boss sent me on an errand to Holland Village. I had just had my driving license. I was so happy to be given the car to drive to Holland Village. And I got lost there because my sense of direction is so poor.
Still is.
Still is, yeah. And then when I returned, I realized she had actually inscribed her name on the glass and fired it. So it became her work, you know. Yeah. I could not do anything about it. She was my boss. But then I also didn't care very much after the initial surprise because I felt the bigger things coming for me. That was how I started my stained glass career. After I left her, I started doing it on my own. It was so difficult in those years. At 24, I was seen as too young and inexperienced. And I was not white. Not white enough, but not even white, you know, because people associate stained glass with Europeans.
Wow, Bee, it's really inspiring to hear how you were led to your calling, especially being hired, having no experience at all as a stained glass. maybe we can, look through some of your pieces, that you have created and take us through your process, your creative process.
Yeah, when I talk about my creative process, many people laughed.
Why?
For major works, I clean my house inside out. It would take more than half a day. I would be drenched in sweat after the cleaning. I scrubbed, I showered, even my ears were not spared. No? After I got everything that bothered me out of my way, all clean and smelling good, I would lie on my sofa. You see this sofa behind me?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
This is 27 years old.
Wow.
And I'm afraid to junk it, because in case I junk it and I lose my inspiration, But anyway, I would lie on the sofa and listen to Gregorian chant and zone out into another space. This is what I did for my first attempt at a jury art exhibition in Vancouver. I was a nervous wreck, as exposing my art means showing a vulnerable side of me, that is not known to anyone, not even my family members. It's titled Send My Roots Rain.
Oh, wow. The title seems very deep. I'm sure there's a story behind it. Why this title?
I give you a little bit of a background. Huh? In 1989, I was newly married and living in Vancouver. Why? Because I went there to support my ex-husband for his education. I myself did some courses there. It was a promise because he supported me in my art, and I felt that I have to do something back in return. On my own initiative, he didn't ask me or anything of that sort. So money was always tight, and we had to pay college fees, which was double of international students. And in those years, the exchange rate was not favorable. Life was a constant struggle to make ends meet. When we arrived there from Tucson, Arizona, a desert, to Vancouver, it was like December. It was rainy, it was dark, it was very cold. I often look at the apartments with warm light and wish I was inside there instead of outside, in the rain. So anyway, life was a constant struggle. I finally settled down and got a job for a glass studio that was looking for experienced glass fabricators. I went for a few interviews. This studio landed a job building a dome for a hotel in Vancouver Island. So I got the job. I was so happy. But because money was tight, before I got my wages, I knew where every cent was going to. I record images of emaciated children that appeared frequently in the news, in the media, and I understood how they must have felt. They inspired me to do this piece. This piece was also inspired by Jesuit priest and poet Gerard Manley Hopkins. The title of the poem was "Thou art indeed just Lord, if I may," or something like that. I wanted to use that title, but it sounded so sarcastic. I thought, how can I be sarcastic with God? So I toned down, I chickened out and toned down, and I used a more humbler approach. Send my roots rain. It's like begging for answers. So this panel is about life paradoxes, the disparity between the rich and the poor. The rich are so rich that they need to resort to Diet Coke for health. And then while the other part of the world, people don't even have clean water to drink. Why does God allow this to happen?
Wow, it sounds like your art is an expression of who you are. Really, I think that's the distinction of a true artist. Art can be so cathartic in a way. It unwinds you so that you carry on to the next expression of life. So what is the next piece you would like to share with us?
Okay, this is very special, very significant and special. At the end of 1992, my marriage had broken down. We returned to Singapore. I had to find ways to support my newborn son and myself, Julian and myself. I was finding my feet back on this soil. Again, after going for several interviews, doing different kinds of job. I was rejected many times. Some say, oh, you're too qualified, Another art school said, you're better off doing on your own, no? You'll be richer if you go on your own, because an art teacher is not paid very much. So I started my business. First few years were very hard. I did some commercial projects for this perception and interior design company. They were the first to engage me. This wonderful lady, Suing, supported me as she too loved art. I also restored the 3 long stained glass windows in St. Teresa's Church. Do you want me to talk about the nativity?
Oh, yes, please, carry on.
Oh, can we zoom in? Okay. This is very pivotal for me. In 1995, I was excited to work on my first major new stained glass project for SJI Chapel at Malcolm Road. Remember the late brother Joseph McNally? Those in the art circle would know. Huh?
Yeah,
I'm
not in the art
SJI
circle.
know, or SJI. He founded the LaSalle School of Arts. He was also a renowned artist himself. He introduced me to Brother Paul Rogers, the principal at that time. Brother Paul gave me the verses to read for designing the windows. The school had decided on the themes already. So being a non-Catholic at that time, I read the verses and drew upon my own recent life experiences. I weaved my feelings into the murals. Remember, I was a new mother. So it was easy for me to project the feelings of a new mother, the warm feelings of a new mother. So being a mother also brought out a lot of love from inside me. I never knew that I would be a good mother or that I love motherhood so much, because I was always independent, adventurous. I needed a free life. But when Julie became the center of my life, so this love in me made me imagine that the angels in heaven are also rejoicing at the birth of my son. I'm very imaginative, and all my life I was adventurous, both physically and in my mind. I imagine the swaddling cloth unfurled, that baby Jesus unfurls to reveal the Lamb of God in a spot of blood. I imagine the angels in monochromatic colors. And then there's this complete ring to show the wholeness of this holy scene. Everything is placid, calm, peaceful.
Beautiful. That's really nice, B. I think one of my favorites. Well, shall we see a next piece?
Let's try Last Supper. My years overseas had been very tough with marriage and money issues. I felt my love was betrayed and forsaken. I experienced the dark tunnel without light. It seemed like it went on and on, I felt abandoned when after his father's passing, my ex-husband chose not to return to Vancouver to wait with me for the birth of our child. I was pregnant and alone. He had put his priority somewhere else. Imagine being pregnant, alone in a foreign land that's wet most part of the year with short daylight. So it was also easy for me to project my feelings for Jesus forsaken on the cross. Brother Paul had requested for Last Supper, but I felt the need to do Jesus forsaken. So I had seen the image somewhere when I was in Vancouver, and I carried it with me for years. I melded the two images together. So one is like full colors, the other one is an monochromatic color. And the strange thing is, after I finished the project, the Jesus forsaken feeling mysteriously disappeared from my life. It is as if I had unloaded it onto the window. So it's kind of therapy for me. I felt healed. If you look at the panel, you see the broken golden ring.
Yeah, I can see it.
Then it reveals the alpha omega signs, which I make into a flame, because fire is purifying. Judas is in yellow on the far left on top. I do not know whether you can see it or not. As Jesus broke the bread, wine is spilled on the table, and it flows down. It runs down to the next window below, to Pieta. There we have Mary carrying a broken body of Jesus. It's meant to be ugly, yeah? Because death can be quite ugly, you know. You see movements overhead to symbolize presence of spirits, right? On the very top of the mural, there's a zigzag lines. Movements overhead symbolize presence of spirits quivering with fear and despair. Can you see right on the very top?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay, we move on to baptism. Around that time, I felt that I felt a need for religion. Before that, when I was younger, I thought just God and me alone, enough, you know. We don't need institution, I don't need religion. No? I was ready to profess a religion, a faith, which I had mulled over ever since my pregnancy. When you are pregnant, suddenly everything came to focus. I felt that what if something happens to me, what will happen to my son? Then I want my son to have a faith also, to bring him up, to recognize God, you know, to love God. I asked God to show me very clear signs and miracles to direct me on the path meant for me. You know, I have sobbed and I have laughed when they manifested so clearly and often with a good dose of humor. My son and I were baptized as Catholics in 1998 at Church of St. Mary of the Angels. But let me explain about the baptism panel. You can see abstract leaves, right, on left and right. You can see, not clear here, but the sky opened up and something like a twig descend and becomes a dove descending upon Christ. And old leaves died, you know, so I had like yellow leaves dropping off and then new leaves coming out. And after he was baptized, the Holy Spirit led him to the mountains where he was tested. Here we have, you see water running down. In the Last Supper panel, you saw just now, you had blood running down, right? Here you have water running down. And you have a mocking serpent, which I etched with hydrofluoric acid onto the background glass, flash glass. Flash glass is actually clear or light colored glass with a thin layer of darker color. So, but by masking and acid etching, I am able to get tones like this. So you have a serpent mocking at Christ. And instead of showing Christ sitting there, I showed a meditating Christ. When you are hungry and fasting, maybe hunger brings about rubbish thoughts. So he was tempted with bread, kingdom, money. And in those years, 1996, 97, there was so much talk on the 5 C's. The 5 C's are what? Condominium, car, cash, credit cards. What's the other thing?
Club membership, I think. I can't remember.
I can remember the 5 C's anyway. And inside this chest of gold, I inserted a symbol of Mercedes-Benz logo because they represent to me, they represented business people. You see, Chinese businessmen always end up with Mercedes, no? As a status symbol.
Yeah. B, I'm so amazed at how your pieces are so rich with meaning, you know, and from your description, what you have been sharing with us, you know, I get the sense of a deep spirituality that you have. And, you know, maybe you can share with us how you developed this sense of spirituality.
I think creative people are generally spiritual. Do you agree with me?
I think so. But then I'm not very creative. I hope then it doesn't mean that I'm not spiritual.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. I mean, I know you too very well, so many years. I think God blessed me by leading me to meet him in nature first. When I was a little girl, before leading me to the Franciscan spirituality and the Focolare spirituality. I was always looking for answers for the purpose of my very existence. You know, one day when I was very young, one late night when the whole house was asleep, I felt a very strong urge to creep out of my house and to lie on the black wooden dining table in the compound. Above me, the night was filled with stars, you know, through the openings of the giant tree. I could see through there. I imagined being carried by the cool breeze to the branches into night sky far away, rising higher and higher. And I asked this presence that enveloped me, which I later made it my God without religion, name, skin, or gender. I asked, who are you that created all this? Why am I born to this family, you know? Living in this house and in this country? Why not somewhere else? Blah, blah, blah. I went on. I had no answer, but I felt this profound and indescribable love, which I drew on for comfort throughout my life whenever I'm in trouble. My first encounter with the Franciscan was in Singapore. I knew nothing about the Franciscans then. The church to me was in some uri part of Singapore. In Arizona, I encountered them the second time because we were driving on our way from Arizona to Albuquerque to watch hot air balloon. And along the way, we stopped by a rundown monastery where my ex-husband, Peter, bought me San Francis with a dove in his hand. Back in Singapore, I was looking for a home after selling off my marital one. It had to be near nature. Drawn to the little hill where St. Mary is, I ventured up. And when I decided to convert, I said, this would be the church I would go to. And years later, it led me to do the Mount Albanian Hospital chapel stained glass.
Which is a Franciscan-run hospital. Yeah.
Franciscan-run hospital, yes.
Yeah. B, would you mind walking us through the Mount Alvernia's mural?
This being a Franciscan hospital-run hospital, St. Damania Cross was very important. So I had it right at the center. It establishes the identity of the Franciscan. I used transparent glass in different blue hues and clear textures to form the water of life, which also allow the outside in. It is very organic and embraces all things, the sun, the trees, all weathers, and even the cars zipping by. Franciscan will say, this is very Franciscan. Non-Franciscan will say, hey, how come like this? You can see the cars, no? How come you never block it out, no? Or use artificial lights?
Yeah, very interesting and funny. You know, I'm aware of your artistry and your connection to God through your art. You know, it really is your ministry as you evangelize through your art. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your next piece. What are you going to vow us with next, B?
Oh, this is another faith of mine. This is Last Supper, which is quite unusual, right? It's vertical.
Yes.
Last Supper is usually horizontal. So if you look closely, you see that there are 13 disciples. Can you see?
Yeah, 13 instead of 12.
Yeah, 13 disciples. I chose this style because I grew to love this style. This style was taken off the hymnal book. When I first attended church at St. Mary, they had the hymnal books with this kind of drawings, right? And I hated it, no? But I grew to love it as I started going to church and started to understand the faith. The figure in white represents the viewer, who has taken a humble position at the bottom. In front of him is a basin of water with a washcloth to symbolize servitude. the table is almost empty, right? You see a white table, right?
Yeah, nothing on it.
Nothing on it, right? Yet, if you look through the stained glass, the white part of it, or actually any part of it, it is full of many things happening beyond the window. The mouth-blown glass beautifies and brings the ordinary exterior to focus. Similarly, when people heard that I grew up in the hills without electricity, bought toys, or next door neighbors, you know, they assume I was living with scarcity and deprived. The opposite is more true. We made our own toys with what we could find around us, and there are plenty of things. Besides the sticks, the flowers, the leaves, the fruits, you know. We upcycled discarded mosaic tiles to make Scrabble tiles. So we played Scrabble games during the school holidays under the big poster bed, 4-poster bed with candle lights to avoid being told to go to sleep. We upcycled even way before upcycling became a fashion, an in thing. So pieces of wood became, with elastic bands and berries, became rifles and pellets. And we divided ourselves into 2 armies fighting in the lalangs taller than us. Recently, I was looking for twigs. I sent some of my volunteers out of St. Mary behind the fence to look for twigs for our liturgical art. And they were told, you better don't go there, there's snakes in the forest and all that. No? So that kind of environment compared with the tall lalangs, which one has more snakes? I need to have more snakes. So we also stole onions, eggs, and cooking oil from the pantry to cook in the forest in a hush-hush way, which heightened the experience. And my favorite time also was to read on a platform my older brother had installed on top of a cashew tree. And when done, I jumped down to a mattress of tiny roots. I mean, where else can you find such an environment, right?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, sounds like an amazing childhood that you had, you know, growing up in a very simple but very rich childhood life. Yeah. Thank you, B, for pointing out all those nuances in your art. You know, when I look at your art, you know, face value, I already can appreciate its overall beauty. But, you know, when you share your story and when you relate it, you know, to the art and to your experiences, the depth of the meaning for each illustration really comes alive for me. You know, I would really love, you know, one of my favorite pieces of yours is The Lady of the Way. Maybe you could share that story with us, because, you know, I really love to hear it, hear this story over and over again.
Actually, beginning, I didn't think very much of this panel because it didn't have Our Lady didn't have the classical look. This has been commissioned by my good friend Angie, who lead tours, lead pilgrimages. She's very close to Our Lady, and she organizes pilgrimages. If you ask her anything about Our Lady, she has lots of information on her. She is like an encyclopedia. She suggested Our Lady of the Way, and her face must not be an Angmo's face. It took me a very long time to decide on how this lady should look. I changed my mind again and again. I even took pictures of young girls of mixed race. It would really be easier to copy a classic face you see in movies or biblical pictures. So I needed this woman, this young woman with olive skin. At the end, I somehow settled on this face. And she said her face reminded her of mine. You know, I don't see how.
I think I see some resemblance.
I think when I was much younger, maybe much younger, my pretty or early teens or something like that. It's a bit Peranakan, and I'm not Peranakan. I don't think I'm Peranakan, although many people think I'm Peranakan. This piece appeals to many of my women friends.
Yeah, like
almost
me.
Everyone who saw it said, I love this piece. And if you look again at the sides, you see what? HDB flat. It is installed on a HDB flat window. and a miracle happened. And she asked me to build a cupboard, like bottom part a cupboard, top part a frame to put this panel. Before I even design the panel, or measure up. So somehow I lost the measurements.
Not surprising.
You know me, you know me. So it was supposed to be somewhere inside the house, just before the balcony. That means you have a ceiling on top, and then you have a cupboard, and then on top is a stained glass. So I was running out of time. I had to do the panel, so I did my own measurements. And on that day, when she had a house blessing, I brought it there. I wanted to put in a safe place, because if I put on the floor, somebody might kick it. There's so many people around, guests around. So I thought maybe I try to put on the window and see whether it works now. And I tell you, it's really a miracle. It's slotted in just 3 to 4 mm gap to allow me to like kind of push it in and rest it on the bottom panel. So the two black members you see on left and right, they're actually part of her window. I slided them to keep the window in place. So it's been there for so many years already. She's Our Lady of the Way, and I placed her in such a way that you see the biblical scene right behind, right? You can see palm trees, sunrise, and then you see buildings, and she's actually entering into Angie's house. So I give it a depth of feel,
Wow, beautiful, really beautiful. I love this. This is my favorite piece.
Thank you.
So, you've been showing us more of the traditional kind of like pieces, the traditional images from our Christian history. Do you do what they call contemporary Christian art?
I do. And more than that, not only contemporary Christian art, I do all kinds. Traditional, I restore 100 over years old windows. I do secular work. For example, like the MRT station, Civic Center secular. I do residential works, and hopefully some days I hope to do hotels and malls someday. Those big malls, those big buildings like UOB buildings with skylight, lots of glass. We can add some glass, stained glass here and there. Maybe not the very colorful glass. Maybe something that is more suitable for those kind of buildings. In my family, I'm most adventurous where girls are concerned. So I'm not afraid to try anything, and not afraid at all to fall, afraid of criticism. I trust God as my guide and shield to take the arrows or the bullets. God had delivered me from evildoers. Where he leads, I follow, which took me to this interesting project for CJC Performing Arts Theatre. It's called Daydreaming. It was commissioned by Brother Paul for CJC. On the ground floor, there was this sculpture made by Brother Joe McNally of a kampong boy kicking a football. I put myself in this boy's shoes and imagine the ball bounce up onto the second floor. Actually, I wanted to stick colorful balls, but then it was too difficult to do. And when I arrived on the second floor, I sat and watched the students play soccer in the field beyond the curtain walls. I don't know whether you can see boys playing soccer behind. If you enlarge, you can see.
Yeah, I can see it.
So I forgot about the ball that ran away from me and lapsed into daydreaming. In my dream, I saw ballerinas, jugglers, Chinese opera, Indian dance, puppets, show, shadow play, and clowns breaking through the fabric of translucent white streets. So it's like a river of life. You can see that. These two panels are actually apart. In the center is a solid wall with another sculpture by Brother Joe McNally. So the boys playing soccer beyond the screen merges with the actors on the screen to become part of the play. Division cease when outside and inside merges as one.
Oh, that was fascinating, B&E. Wow, I'm really awed by your imagination, which really knows no boundaries, And I'm also quite amazed, at how you use the environment behind, as part of your art. so it becomes like, together as a holistic kind of piece with the environment and your work of art, And, I think I could go on and on seeing, your next piece and all, but I shouldn't hog you. We have, and maybe it's time for us to start involving our participants who have, joined us this morning. And as I said, many of them have started sending their questions. So shall we take a look at some of the questions that we have received now?
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Actually, I have some more pieces which I would like to share, but let's see whether we have time or not. Okay.
Okay. All right.
For example,
we take some. Okay, maybe I allow you to share one more piece.
Okay.
What is your favorite piece that you want us to share? You want us to see? This.
Let me see. You see, stained glass is always associated with the West, right?
Yes.
But me being a Singaporean Chinese, I'm always trying to bring in our flavor, local flavor, whether it's Chinese or Peranakan or, So I did this peony, because peony is a Chinese, to me, peony is a Chinese version of rose. It represents love. So here I have pink on clear glass. It is not airbrush, It is acid etched and takes a long time to do it. In the center, you have speckles of silver stain and amber stain. So I'm trying to do more work with local flavors. It's very difficult, but I think I will persist doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we should, you should, work that is representative of our region, and show that there's a different side to stained glass as well, not just the Western visions of it.
Yeah. You see this panel here?
Yes.
It's huge. It's made for a house which is filled with Peranakan things.
Oh, is that the house that we see at the side?
Yes, it is. In front, there's a curved canopy made of stained glass and steel. And they took a picture of a building like this, a house like this in Penang. And I had to figure out how to make it happen. So it was, I had to think through it a lot. But when it was done, I was so proud of myself. These days, when I drive past the place, I feel so proud. And I always do things that makes me happy, makes me smile when I pass by the site. This is an image that is taken off from a kamcheng. They call it kamcheng or what? Those urns, Peranakan urns.
I see.
The owners have got tons and tons of them. One wall will be filled with yellow one wall will be filled with pink, and one wall with blue, and so on, and green, or emerald or whatever. So you have two phoenixes eyeing each other. And I purposely acid the center part of the pink to highlight the meeting of the eyes.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so maybe we'll go back to one of the questions that we have received. One of the questions comes from Rose Fang. She asked, since you are doing such an inspirational and spiritual kind of stained glass work for churches and other religious institutions, when and how and what was your first encounter with God?
Your earlier question about early spirituality answered this question already, but I'd like to add on that the search of meaning and purpose of my life has always been there, brimming in everything I do. So I also wanted to know who I really am, my true self. Another time when I was a little older, I looked hard in the mirror and imagined myself without my features, which gave me my physical identity. I looked in the mirror and I imagined myself without my hair first, followed by my ears, my eyebrows, my nose, my mouth, and lastly, my eyes. Pausing at each point, I asked myself the same question: is this still Koh Liang? So if physically I'm not here, will I still exist?
Yeah, very deep. You know, actually, I want to insert one of my own questions now. Can you tell us a bit about your name, you know, Elenora Koh? How did that come about?
Yeah, people are confused. They didn't, some people didn't know that Elenora and Koh are the same person. So they argued like, oh, this was done by Elenora. So no, this is done by Biliang, you know. So let's get it straight, huh?
Yes, let's clear the air.
Yeah. When I was about, I think, 9 years old, my dad gathered all of us on his queen size bed for his children. No? He was having English tuition at that point of his life. So he had this book, the blue book, First Aid for English or something like that. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Maybe not your time, but during my sister's, my older sister's years in school, they were using that book. So he went to this page with all the Christian names. Okay, you are Jesse, you are Cecilia, you are William, you are Eleanor, you know, and then there's Michael. Michael changed his name to Daryl. Kevin, William changed to Kevin, and then Susan. She didn't like to be called Susan because it sounded like some hairdresser. So she calls herself Sue now. And then there is Wilhelmina, who becomes Mina, and she rejected it, but then recently she used it again because I told her it's an elegant name, you know. And then there's Melvin, my adopted brother. So because Eleanor is such an old-fashioned name, I was thinking of Eleanor Roosevelt, no? Yeah, I didn't like her look, no. I'm not going to be, too old for me. So I didn't use the name. So, but when I was 38, and when I got baptized, I thought maybe I should honor my dad. No? I used the name he gave me, but I changed it a little, no? I put the A behind, so it became Eleonora. My Chinese name means beautiful lotus. It was supposed to be Bilian, but the club wrote wrongly and put Biliang. I thank God for that, no? Because imagine Lian, people will be teasing me, Alien. So I am very glad for that, you know.
The error.
For the error, you know, it was God behind it, it's Holy Spirit behind it. It gives a masculine edge to it, I think. So my dad gave me the name, hoping that maybe I would rise above the worldly, muddy waters of the world, you know, pools of the world. Because lotus, although they grow in muddy waters, they remain pristine.
Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing how our name actually reflects a big part of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take another question. This is from Charles T, who asks, did your work inspire your faith, or does your faith inspire your work?
Both ways. One feeds the other. Or you can see it like a courtship dance. I reflect on something and I put it onto my work, and then, you know, as I pray and all that, it affects it influences what I do.
Okay, and I think you had talked a bit about your childhood. So Susan is asking, you know, in what way would you say your childhood has had an influence from your art and your spirituality? You know, anything more that you could add from that?
Growing up with nature is a big part. Having parents who love us dearly and supporting us. What else? Because being in a big family, my parents didn't give us too much attention, you know? So we were left alone to our own devices. We became very independent. Without TV, we got bored, so we became very creative, you know. I was given a lot of space. In fact, I hardly talked when I was young. I was a very quiet girl, quiet, smiling girl. Yeah.
Hard to imagine that. Now cannot keep you quiet.
Yeah. Even my classmates said, no, you were so quiet last time, but now you can really talk. No? I think your job force you to become like this. But first of all, I started. My brother teased me. My brother was stuttering. I teased him and I caught it, you know, and for many years I was stuttering. And it was Mrs. Alice Paul who helped me overcome it. So I was left pretty much on my own, and I was doing things like, okay, converting T-shirts into a blouse, or drawing, lots and lots of drawings, or just making things out of nothing. And because nature has God's fingerprints on them. We may not understand, but sometimes lying on a log, watching the river birds build nests, watching the insects mating, you know, you learn some things from nature, you know. Once I bit my skin. Okay, I saw this army of ants marching. So I bit my skin from my finger, and I dropped onto the ants, onto the path. And I saw how the ants communicated with their feelers, the legs and feelers, and how they band up together to carry this gift from heaven.
Your skin.
My skin into their hole. Into an ant nest. So it really, you know, I mean, I cannot articulate very well that nature has a lot to teach us without words.
Yeah. This is a good point for me to bring in this question from Ivan. You know, he says, you know, I realize some of your stained glass works, like the one in Mount Alvernia Chapel and the church decorations in St. Mary of the Angels, have many nature elements like fire and fallen branches and leaves. May I ask how nature has inspired you and your works?
I grew up with nature. I love nature. I cannot live without nature. Even my present place, when I was booking the flat, it had to face nature. I wake up, I see nature. I go to bed, I look into heaven, the sky, and these days you don't see stars, but sometimes I see stars. You know, Kiara Lubick, founder of Focolare movement, also known as Word Mary, said that it's enormous grace to be able to perceive beneath nature a God that binds all things of nature together like one big family of brothers and sisters, which was also St. Francis' vision, originally Francis. I'm in awe of trees, which give of itself totally to creatures and critters needing shelter. Trees never complain. I imagine them quietly giving each other space and reaching out to help their own kind under the cover of the ground. You know, they never brag, no? They help quietly. I think we should learn from trees.
Yeah, I love trees.
I love trees. Trees are killed to serve the needs of others. Even in death, it gives others new life. You know, become fertilizer and all that. Give heat from the charcoal. Trees live the will of God better than many of us.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's really in nature. Whenever our interactions, I always see you bring nature into your conversations and, you know, in your thoughts as well. Let's take another question from Vincentia. He's asking, do you have a team to work with when you have a large project? You know, because a lot of your work, I think, is manual as well. You know, so you're a woman. Manual. How do you do it? Yeah.
It's so physical, you know, from drawing to enlarging, you know. It looks small when it's up, high up, but actually when you put it down, I have to sometimes work on the floor. I have to crawl over my papers and all that. You know, when I was pregnant in Vancouver, this big stomach, I was drawing on the floor, and then I couldn't get up. No, I needed help of my colleagues to pull me up. You know, it got so heavy. I needed my friend to help me. Yeah, of course, I need people to help me, especially the parts which does not require artistic inputs. Like for example, soldering. You know, I'll teach them how to solder, and puttying, which is so dirty. You know, they put a window putty between the lead and the glass to stiffen the panel, and a lot of cleaning. You know? When I do this myself, my hands and my fingers, you know, my nail bed used to be long, but after so many years they have shortened because it'll be black and we'll be digging and digging and digging. So over the years, it shortened. I need help in that area. Also for installation. These days, I farm out my installation. It's more business-wise, it's
more sensible.
More sensible, yeah, than keeping full-timer because site work is very beginning where you take you size up the place and the very end. So it's like maybe 10% of the work or even less. The rest is crafting, cutting glass, you know. The painting takes a long time, you know, and very detailed. Acid etching, very slow, and building, you know, that kind of thing. Even cleaning a simple job, it can take almost a day to clean a big panel. You know, you clean and then your fingerprints or the grease or, you know, I mean, being OCD, I need every part to be very clean.
Yeah.
Because once you put it up there and the dirt is trapped between the commercial glazing and the back of the stained glass, you can't, I mean, it's very difficult to take it out and clean again.
Yeah, wow. Needs a lot of patience, perseverance, yeah. Vincentia is also asking whether you have any projects in Malaysia or you're just doing work in Singapore?
Malaysia, Sri Lanka, New Zealand, where else? East Malaysia also, East and West Malaysia. East Malaysia was for a datuk. The house was so huge. You know, there were windows here and there. By the end of the day, I'm just walking from one window to the other window on the other side of the house. I was so tired. I brought my sister along, Cecilia along. So, and he was very nice. The couple was very nice. They actually housed us and cooked for us. You know, they have an organic farm, and the wife would go out and harvest the vegetables, and every meal is a feast. You know.
Wow.
I have in West Malaysia, I have projects in Penang, St. Anne's Church. That was where I met the Fukulari movement. This is what I did for the Datuk. This is only a couple of windows. I did many other windows. Yeah, this one is using translucent glass and clear glass. The clear glass has got bubbles, no? So when you look through, you see nature beyond. You know, nature become part of the art. I said flowers from heaven because this Datuk, he came from a humble beginning. So he was bestowed the Datuk title. He didn't buy it, he was bestowed Datuk title. He became very rich. And these are like, you know, from heaven for gifts from heaven for him. And by the way, they are a Catholic family, you know. And how they got to know me, how we got to know each other, he came to Singapore and he had a regular taxi driver. And he asked the taxi driver, who does stained glass here? The taxi driver called around and they called me. And they came to my house, my flat, you know. And when she saw the crucifix and the Holy Family sculpture, her name was Mary. So she saw that, she was smiling, you know. Then I said, are you Catholic? She said, yes. And then she burst into laughter, and then we became like peli lah, you know?
Yeah. Amazing, you know, how the Holy Spirit guided them to you.
Yeah, I'm still very amazed. Actually, there's so many experiences. I think I can write a book on them. You know? It's like, you know, another example is, you know, I was buying glass from France, mouth-blown glass from France. I used to import the glass, and they would send me glass that is thicker in the center and thinner at the sides. So when you cut the glass, I could not break through the glass without the glass broken in ways that were not suitable for my art. So I lost a lot of material. So one day I decided to go to see them, to buy little gifts, little souvenirs for the people on the floor, in the warehouse floor. I had a job with the government. They sent me to Germany, somewhere near Frankfurt. So I thought, why not I make a trip to southern France, overnight trip, see them and then come back again. I did that trip, I went out at night and I came back the next night. It was so exhausting that I vomited along the way. At the train station, instead of enjoying the nice French pastries and everything, I looked at the food and was vomiting. So some years later, I said, I have to go again. So there was this guy, Sidney Selgay, young guy who was a friend of the Focolare movement. I asked him, I said, Sidney, I want to go to St. Etienne. I want to stay. I explained the situation to him. I said, you want to go there? Why? I was from that university, Then he said, what do you want me to do? You tell me, I plan for you. So I told him what I was bringing Julian along. I said, we want to see glass blowing, how they make the sheet glass. We want to stay in the hotel. We want to see Paris and all that. I've been to Paris before, but then for Julian's sake, right? I said, wait, I will plan for you. And, he came back with contact. His godmother is an artist. And the godmother and one of the directors of the stained glass company are friends, very good friends. They spend their summer holidays together. I think they share a holiday house or whatever, So isn't that God's way of, the world is so large, but how come you will link,
Yeah, amazing.
So anytime I need help, I would call on her, So it was really amazing for me.
God has sent many angels along the way.
For you. This company does mouth-blown glass. This one and maybe Lambert's and a few others. Mouth-blown glass meaning it's blown by mouth into a balloon, and then they will cut the end off, both ends off, and then they will do a score line and put inside the furnace where heat will open it up. Then they will they will iron it with wet poplar wood. So it's a very long process. It takes about maybe 4 men to make one sheet of glass. And that's before it comes to us to be made into a stained glass panel. So naturally, the price is much, much, much higher.
More expensive.
More expensive, but then the beauty is there, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I saw a little bit video when I went to the Dale Chihuly, doing the blown glass. It's quite amazing. Yeah.
But the problem is that I am trying to introduce mouth-blown glass, in contemporary art, because the glass itself is so beautiful, you don't need much painting or anything of that. But then there are competitors who come in and give, like, for example, I will cook for mouth-blown glass. I always cook for mouth-blown glass. Somebody will come in, take the design and put machine wrought glass, So I lost many projects that way.
Yeah. Using Aloysius as a question, using glass art is brilliant, at different angles and at different illumination levels, it will turn out differently and captivate people, and he says art is a way to draw people to church too. Is it associated to be the Art Nouveau trend?
Stained glass style evolves over time. I've seen stained glass, which was made as early as the early century. The stained glass at that time was only available in very few colors. I remember yellow as being one of them. Clear glass, clear textured glass. For this reason, you see a lot of Rizal windows in Gothic churches. Later, they discovered metal compounds which make more palettes of colors. Art Nouveau windows were made with mostly machine wrought glass, made by Wismac. If you look at Church of St. Joseph at Queen Street, those windows, those tall windows at the nave and transept are Art Nouveau style windows. I mentioned about, and then those at the altar, they are made of mouth-blown glass. So you can see the distinct difference, right?
Yeah, definitely. Aloysius also wants to know whether do you sell and market educate your trade or based solely on referrals, as there are always new trends, people trying to draw, new trends trying to draw people? Like, do you have your own website? How do you get your work?
I have a
under unfinished website for many years.
For many years, I actually paid people to do website. You know how many times already, but then I didn't put it online because I wasn't satisfied with them. Okay, that's one thing. Most of my projects are from referrals.
Even from taxi drivers.
From taxi drivers, yeah. I didn't know, no. One in a glass exhibition in Singapore as a guest, they invited me, yeah? And I had only one piece to display because I wasn't prepared for it, and I'm very thin-skinned. I didn't want to show things that other people could do, I wanted it to be special. So I displayed this panel. Only this panel. They gave me so much space. I only had this panel. So in desperation, I called for help. I went to this antique shop. I said, can you lend me table? Lend me table. You lend me cloth. And then display pieces. And then one small corner, I displayed this. And I got a very big temple job.
Wow.
Yeah.
God at work again.
God at work again. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have another question, whether somebody looking for advice, I think this person might be, interested in maybe setting up his own business or something. He's asking your advice for people who want to venture into any business with, who don't have a large network. A little network is all they have.
I think the last person you should ask is me, because I don't have a business mind. I'm driven by passion and my love for art. I guess
as all artists, yeah.
So CBN is a place to go to. I suggest pray if it is God's, if it's what God wants from you. Even if I did many projects over so many years, I'm still struggling to survive today, as my income is very inconsistent. Sometimes I do pro bono jobs, but please, you people out there, don't always ask me to do pro bono jobs, okay? Because I need to survive. I have to pay workers, and everything stipulated by MOM, And like most self-employed artists, I don't have CPF, NWC, medical coverage. I don't have all these perks, I'm only an artist, so please go to CBN for business advice.
Yeah,
my friend Kelly will be laughing at me, that this question came for me because I'm really an idiot.
Yeah, this leads me to my next question to you is like, when you want to price your work, do you struggle with, how you price your work for a piece of commercial work and a piece of work for a religious institution like a church?
Actually, for commercial work, I try to hear what people are quoting. It was like, wow, I can quote that amount, because I've been very conservative. My price may seem very high, but because the material cost is like 5 times the price of a low-grade glass. So sometimes I feel very stupid. So when Kelly asked me, I zip up, because I look very stupid. Not knowing and not daring to charge what I should be charging.
Yeah, I think it is because you see your work as really God's work, and don't put a value on what you're doing, and more an expression of yourself and God's love in you.
Yes, but maybe not so holy, I love creating, so that always overpowers everything else. Yeah. So actually, I need someone to crack the whip.
Okay, maybe we'll take another question from Elenora. She's asking you, Elenora, raised her child as a single mother and managed her Artglass business, which is a job more suitable for a man, and a big challenge in my view. So she's asking, how do you cope so well and for so many decades?
Sound holy, yeah? God is my strength. love, passion, resilience are the ingredients to me, you know. My parents' love and moral support, my parents' capacity to love us and those people outside the family, the way they love others different from them, no? Like neighbors of different races and all that kind of thing. My mom actually organized a fundraising to give a destitute proper funeral, you know, this kind of things. My dad would invite strangers to the house. Friends would come to the house, no? My friends, my sister's friend, my brother's friend, my uncle's friends. Those sometimes people going through difficulties, a difficult patch in their family life, they will stay at my house for free. But they will eat whatever we ate, you know. So I grew up with that kind of environment. And it's important because in my business, I have to deal with all kinds of people. You know, workers, blue-collar workers, rough-talking blue-collar workers, people who try to like overstep the boundary. I work with migrant workers, and I love sitting with them and eating with them, no? Even on the roadside. Then they would tell me about those installers. They'll tell me about their family backgrounds and all that. I mean, I enjoy that. Also, my love for all things beautiful. That was a driving force. Stained glass is beautiful. You agree?
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Resilience, my late mother set the example of resilience, always bending to circumstances and bouncing back to her core, like the bamboos near my house. I need to be very resilient in the face of challenges of an independent stained glass artist. They are more feminine than these days. The work is physically tough and dirty. You know, I climb scaffold, I have to wear hard hat, all that kind of thing. You know, sometimes it gets really, really, really hot. Labor can be a big problem, getting the right people. Detractors can be very harsh and unfair. Can I say some are evil, as I had experienced before? And there's no governing body for me to lodge my complaints. When my designs were ripped off and given to someone else that hold power within the church community. Some days I feel some degrees of self-pity. I'm not all gung-ho, no. I mean, privately, I do grieve, but they disappeared as quickly as snowflakes in fire.
Yeah.
Also, you know, I have a lot of angels. Although my life can be very hard, no? My work can be very hard. No? I have angels in friends, my family. Yeah. When I was going through a very difficult time, they were around for me, you know. And I like to bring up something. When I was going through a very difficult project, the man would tell me to quit. Don't, it's not worth it, no. Let go, no. Don't do it. No, it'll affect your health. But my women friends, like yourself, Kelly, and my sisters and all that will say, no, you have to hang on, no. Because if you back out, they think you cannot do it, which is not true, you know. So even when I had to look for workers, I would do things that it's not so straight, you know. I'll go and look for workers in places where they hang around, you know. So my guy worker would be so frightened or shivering. And the question was single mother, right? Actually, having Julian helped center me. Remember I told you that before having Julian, my mind was all over the places. I was adventurous and blah, 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 you know. Yeah. But having him pull everything back to the center. And because I have to raise this child, I must work. I must focus on my work, you know, and not dream about this and going here and there, you know. So he was very important. So this is also God's work, right?
Definitely, yes. you know. I mean, in a way, looking after a child, you have to ensure that you have actually a regular income, you know.
Yes.
But, you know, in your business, I'm sure the predictability of your income is really unpredictable.
It's really unpredictable. You know, I
Yeah.
look back and I say, hey, I'm still around today, you know, after so many years, no. I mean, single mother, artist in this unique kind of art, no? In Singapore, at least in Singapore, it's unique, no. And I survived, you know. How did I survive? It must be God, you know.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
And you know what? Because I dare not, I click on to God because I'm so afraid, no, that He abandons me.
God never abandons. You know, you are so connected with the religious, you practically know all the whole religious community in Singapore, you know. And, you know, we talked a little bit about, you know, your pricing and, you know, the margin for church projects being much lower than from other revenues, you know. So how much of your work actually is, you know, what's the balance between commercial and you know, religious related projects?
Actually, they're mostly religious related projects. I fewer secular projects, which is why I think over the next year or so, I have to be moving out. I have to jump track, I think. I can still bring in spirituality to secular projects, right?
Definitely, yeah. That's how you evangelize.
You know, I shouldn't feel guilty about doing secular projects, right?
You shouldn't.
God has not said you must stay in church, do church work only, right?
Right.
Tell me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all of us who, you know, work in, you know, fields which are not like religious, we bring God into our workplaces, you know, and through your work as well. Yeah. Yeah. So what you know, is your dream for the future? Could you share that with us?
For stained glass, more secular murals in public places, like they do in Australia, Spain, and all that, all those countries. Maybe I will consider selling my business and be a consultant designer. So I can let go more of the physically tough work. Let the guys do it. Train people up. Yeah.
You know, and
but the part that I enjoy most is conceptualizing. So I want to carry on doing that. Realizing works and you know, that make people go, wow. You know?
Yeah, I think we are drawing to a close. But, you know, before, you know, I hand over to Errol, you know, I like as moderator, take advantage and give you a last question. You know,
okay.
Now, if you did not become a stained glass artist, okay, who would Koh Biliang be today?
Koh Biliang was drifting. So, but I did consider architecture because it involves art too, right? I think that I don't think I would have stayed on advertising. You're talking about jobs, right?
Yeah, you know.
So I love architecture, and I would like when I travel, I'll take pictures of buildings, unique buildings, and I'm a big fan of the unique architecture we watch on Netflix and YouTube. You know, I love those things, those kind of programs where they overcome challenges and they build very beautiful, very unique and close to nature kind of homes.
Thank you, but we are glad, you know, that you chose the path that, you know, somehow God was guiding you towards, and that's becoming a stained glass artist. And, you know,
yeah, it seemed to be very clear from the very first job and along the way that, you know, I tried to like change line a few times, no, because it was so difficult. No? Income was inconsistent and all that. I said, why not quit and just work for people for regular income and then have build up my CPF. But every time I wanted to change track, an interesting job will come along. And then I'm sucked back to it again. You know how many times it happened?
Still happening now, I think. Huh?
I guess I cannot get away from it.
I think Koh Biliang is meant to be a stained glass. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Biliang, for a most enlightening time and for sharing your life's journey with us through your art, and and sharing personal things of your life as well. No matter how many times I know some of your stories, it's still fresh each time I listen to it. So thank you very much, Biliang, for your time and
thank you for
sharing.
Hosting. Thank you, Arrow and CBN team also. This kind of sharing is healing. First, you share with a close friend, and then you share with family. Then the last one is the public. So, it is very healing.
Thank you, B.
Thank you. Yeah.
Errol, I hand over back to you. Thank you.
Okay, so CBN is not a funded organization. We bring all our programs and services, FOC, to you all. So do help us with your love offerings if you can. We'll keep the QR code if you can open up your banking app and scan to pay, please. You can also send us checks or do a bank transfer. And I'll now hand over to Elenora to do a concluding prayer. Over to you, Elenora.
We have a moment of silence and let's put ourselves before God. Heavenly Father, I can never thank you enough for the gift of life, good family and friends, strength and fortitude, good health and talents. What I am today, I owe it all. But most of all, I thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ. Your word says you knew me before I was born. You planned and prepared my life for me long ago, pushing and shaping me through people and life circumstances you have placed in my path. It fills me with overwhelming awe and gratitude whenever I recall your grace and mercy in my colorful life and the ways you pursued me with your love. Loving Father, at a time when there is increasing unrest and fear of what is happening around us, I lift up to you the world leaders that they may be awakened to lead with wisdom, justice, mercy, and truth. I pray for your mercy to heal the world of this pandemic and the hurts the strong inflicted on the weak, and heal the earth. Gracious Father, your faithfulness never fails. I believe my faith will grow as a response to your love and mercy. As my understanding is imperfect, lead me clearly your way, and I will follow you. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
So thank you, Elenora and Lynn and all the team behind. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this Saturday morning. Wish you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Errol. Thank you. Irving and all. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend, a blessed weekend.
Dear friends of CBN, thank you for tuning in to Catholic Business Network's My Journey series. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button. And if you are new to our channel, do follow us on all our social media platforms and click on the subscribe button and the bell icon to get a notification whenever we post a new video. Thank you and God bless.